Never again is a challenge to reject hatred in all of its forms, including anti-Semitism. Which has no place in a civilized world. And today, just steps from where he gave his life protecting this place. We honor the memory of Officer Stephen Tyrone Johns, whose family joins us today. Never again is a challenge to defend the fundamental right of free people and free. Nations to exist in peace and security, and that includes the State of Israel. And on my visit to the old Warsaw Ghetto, a woman looked me in the eye. And she wanted to make sure America stood with Israel. She said, "It's the only Jewish state we have." And I made her a promise in that solemn place. I said I will always be there for Israel. So when efforts are made to equate Zionism to racism, we reject them. When international forums single out Israel with unfair resolutions, we vote against them. When attempts are made to delegitimize the State of Israel, we oppose them. When faced with a regime that threatens global security and denies the Holocaust and threatens to destroy Israel. The United States will do everything in our power to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Never again is a challenge to societies. We're joined today by communities who've made it your mission to prevent mass atrocities in our time. This museum's Committee of Conscience, NGOs, faith groups, college students. You've harnessed the tools of the digital age, online maps and satellites, and a video and social media campaign seen by millions. You understand that change comes from the bottom up, from the grassroots. You understand? To quote the task force convened by this museum, preventing genocide is an achievable goal. It is an achievable goal. It is one that does not start from the top, it starts from the bottom up. It's remarkable. As we walked through this exhibit, Ellie and I were talking as we looked at the unhappy record of the State Department and so many officials here in the United States during those years. And he asked, "What would you do?" But what you all understand is you don't just count on officials. You don't just count on governments. You count on people and mobilizing their consciences. And finally, never again is a challenge to nations. It's a bitter truth. Too often, the world has failed to prevent the killing of innocents on a massive scale. And we are haunted by the atrocities that we did not stop and the lives we did not save. Three years ago today, I joined many of you for a ceremony of remembrance at the U.S. Capitol. And I said that we had to do everything we can to prevent and end atrocities. And so I want to report back to some of you today to let you know. That as president I've done my utmost to back up those words with deeds. Last year, in the first ever presidential directive on this challenge, I made it clear that preventing mass atrocities and genocide is a core national security. Interest and a core moral responsibility of the United States of America. That does not mean that we intervene militarily every time there's an injustice in the world. We cannot and should not. It does mean we possess many tools, diplomatic and political. And economic and financial, and intelligence and law enforcement and our moral suasion and using. These tools over the past 3 years, I believe I know that we have saved countless lives. When the referendum in South Sudan was in doubt, it threatened to reignite a conflict that had killed millions. But with determined diplomacy, including by some people in this room, South Sudan became the world's newest nation. And our diplomacy continues, because in Darfur, in Abyei, in southern Kordofan and the Blue Nile, the killing of innocents must come to an end. The presidents of Sudan and South Sudan must have the courage to negotiate, because the people of Sudan and South Sudan deserve peace. That is work that we have done, and it has saved lives. When the incumbent in Côte d'Ivoire lost an election but refused to give up power. It threatened to unleash untold ethnic and religious killings. But with regional and international diplomacy, and UN peacekeepers who stood their ground and protected civilians, the former leader is now in The Hague. And Côte d'Ivoire is governed by its rightful leader and lives were saved. When the Libyan people demanded their rights and Muammar Gaddafi's forces bore down. On Benghazi, a city of 700,000, and threatened to hunt down its people like rats. We forged with allies and partners a coalition that stopped his troops in their tracks. And today, the Libyan people are forging their own future. and the world can take pride in the innocent lives that we saved. And when the Lord's Resistance Army led by Joseph Kony continued its atrocities in Central Africa, I ordered a small number of American advisors to help Uganda and its neighbors pursue the LRA. And when I made that announcement, I directed my National Security Council to review our progress after 150 days. We have done so, and today I can announce that our advisors will continue their efforts to bring this madman to justice, and to save lives. It is part of our regional strategy to end the scourge that is the LRA. And help realize a future where no African child is stolen from their family and no girl is raped and no boy is turned into a child soldier. We've stepped up our efforts in other ways. We're doing more to protect women and girls from the horror of wartime sexual violence. With the arrest of fugitives like Ratko Mladic, charged with ethnic cleansing in Bosnia. The world sent a message to war criminals everywhere. We will not relent in bringing you to justice. Be on notice. And for the first time, we explicitly barred entry into the United States of those responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Now we're doing something more. We're making sure that the United States government has the structures, the mechanisms to better prevent and respond to mass atrocities. So I created the first ever White House position dedicated to this task. It's why I created a new Atrocities Prevention Board, to bring together senior officials from across our government. to focus on this critical mission. This is not an afterthought. This is not a sideline in our foreign policy. The board will convene for the first time today, at the White House. And I'm pleased that one of its first acts will be to meet with some of your organizations. Citizens and activists who are partners in this work, who have been carrying this torch. Going forward, we'll strengthen our tools across the board, and we'll create new ones. The intelligence community will prepare, for example, the first ever national intelligence estimate on the risk of mass atrocities and genocide. We're going to institutionalize the focus on this issue. Across government, alert channels will ensure that information about unfolding crises. And dissenting opinions quickly reach decision makers, including me. Our Treasury Department will work to more quickly deploy its financial tools to block the flow of money to abusive regimes. Our military will take additional steps to incorporate the prevention of atrocities into its doctrine and its planning. And the State Department will increase its ability to surge our diplomats and experts in a crisis. USAID will invite people and high-tech companies to help create new technologies to quickly expose violations of human rights. And we'll work with other nations so the burden is better shared because this is a global responsibility. In short, we need to be doing everything we can to prevent and respond to these kinds of atrocities because national sovereignty is never a license to slaughter your people. We recognize that, even as we do all we cannot control every event. And when innocents suffer, it tears at our conscience. Eli alluded to what we feel as we see the Syrian people subjected to unspeakable violence. Simply for demanding their universal rights. And we have to do everything we can. And as we do, we have to remember that despite all the tanks and all the snipers, all the torture and brutality unleashed against them, the Syrian people still brave the streets. They still demand to be heard. They still seek their dignity. The Syrian people have not given up, which is why we cannot give up. And so with allies and partners, we will keep increasing the pressure, with a diplomatic effort to further isolate Assad and his regime. So that those who stick with Assad know that they are making a losing bet. We'll keep increasing sanctions to cut off the regime from the money it needs to survive. We'll sustain a legal effort to document atrocities so killers face justice. And a humanitarian effort to get relief and medicine to the Syrian people. And we'll keep working with the Friends of Syria to increase support for the Syrian opposition as it grows stronger. Indeed, today we're taking another step. I've signed an executive order that authorizes new sanctions against the Syrian government and Iran. And those that abet them for using technologies to monitor and track and target citizens for violence. These technologies should not empower these technologies. Should be in place to empower citizens, not to repress them.